For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Former President Donald Trump said today he's received a letter informing him he's the target of the Justice Department's investigation into efforts to undo the results of the 2020 presidential election. It likely stems from Trump's infamous phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, asking him to find the votes to overturn Joe Biden's electoral win in Georgia. Trump made the claim that he's a target of an investigation on his Truth Social platform. Meanwhile, a Florida judge who issued a court ruling last year critics said was unduly favorable to Donald Trump is set to provide over the first pretrial conference in Trump's landmark criminal case over his retention of hundreds of classified documents today. Prosecutors and defense lawyers are scheduled to appear before Judge Aileen Cannon to discuss the rules and procedures that will govern how the classified evidence is used in the case. Extreme heat and extreme rainfall has hit several nations around the world. Climate scientists say this summer's record heat waves in China, Europe, Africa, and the U.S. and record monsoonal flooding in Asia will become more likely due to climate change. John Nairn is an extreme heat advisor with the World Meteorological Organization.
We are seeing continuing growth in the frequency, duration, and intensity of heat waves. And this is entirely consistent with the science of global warming and IPCC reports. These events will continue to grow in intensity, and the world needs to prepare for more intense heat waves.
In the U.S., some 2/3 of the nation's population is under a heat warning. Phoenix hit a record 10 days of sweltering heat at 110 degrees or higher. California's Death Valley is forecast to hit record or near record highs. Several wildfires have broken out in the state, including in Southern California and the Yosemite National Park. The heat wave heads east next. Flooding in the northeastern U.S. killed a woman and still has her 2 young children missing as search and rescue are underway in Pennsylvania. In southern Europe, extreme weather is forecast to break highs of 118 degrees in Italy. Extreme heat traveled as far north as Switzerland. In Greece, authorities issued evacuation orders for at least 6 seaside communities from 2 major wildfires. Japan issued a heat warning, and China saw record highs of 125 degrees Monday as U.S. climate envoy John Kerry was meeting with his counterpart in Beijing, where Kerry urged action.
China and the United States are the 2 most powerful economies in the world. We also happen to be the 2 largest emitters of greenhouse gases. And so the imperative of our 2 countries coming together and working and showing the rest of the world how we can cooperate and begin to address this with the urgency it requires is incredible.
While China has surged in solar power production, it's also a major user of coal-fired power plants, which are a major source of climate change-inducing greenhouse gas emissions. Climate justice organizers called for governments to adopt a fossil fuels treaty Monday, arguing fossil fuel companies are the cause of extreme climate change and cannot be negotiated with. Zipporah Berman is a climate activist.
The fossil fuel industry is not going to manage its own decline. We have to stop trusting them. We have to stop including them in COPs. We have to stop including them in the development of climate policy. And banks and pension funds have to stop consulting them on whether or not to divest with them. These companies have been denying what's been happening. They've been holding back information on how fossil fuels are killing us.
A bloc of Pacific nations spearheaded by Vanuatu and Tuvalu have called on nation states to join them in developing a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. That call supported by the World Health Organization and the European Parliament. Christopher Martinez has more.
A growing climate crisis and nuclear saber-rattling have touched off a response from activists who want to link their movements to fight what they call twin existential threats. Bill McKibben is co-founder of 350.org and Third Act. He sees several parallels between nuclear weapons and climate change.
The extra heat that we trap near the planet's surface because of the carbon we've put into the atmosphere, that extra heat is the heat equivalent every single day of about 400,000 Hiroshima-sized explosions. And when you think about it in those units, you get a better sense of how we've been able to do the damage we've done and how related these things are.
As the activists campaign for divestment from fossil fuels and nuclear weapons, they'll face a large and well-funded opposition from industry lobbyists and others more comfortable with the fragile status quo. But the activists look at past examples like South African apartheid, child labor, and tobacco. I'm Christopher Martinez.
Ukraine said its forces shot down Russian drones and cruise missiles targeting the Black Sea port of Odessa. One day after Russia withdrew from a grain deal out of the Black Sea, Moscow called the attack revenge for the Ukrainian attack on a bridge linking the Crimean Peninsula to Russia, a key supply route from Moscow. That bridge strike also killed a couple and wounded their teenage child, according to Russian authorities. Meanwhile, the United Nations has condemned Russia's termination of the Black Sea grain deal that allowed shipment of Ukrainian grain to needy countries. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.